Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Wayfind Marketing Live. Today is episode number 5, and we're glad that you are joining us. My name is Steve Phipps, and I am the founder and the president of Wayfind Marketing. And if you've joined us before, either on the live stream, or maybe you've watched one of our earlier episodes on YouTube, or maybe even listened to our podcast, we're glad you're here. And the whole reason I started this podcast live stream was to do two things, and that's to both encourage and equip business owners, business leaders, and nonprofit leaders. And so the way that we're doing this is on Tuesdays, every Tuesday at noon Central Time. We are focused on what I'm calling navigating business. So much is changing quickly right now. Business owners, leaders, nonprofit leaders, we're having to figure things out that we've never had to figure out before. We're having to do things in new ways. And so what's happening is on Tuesdays, we're inviting in some different guests from different areas of business. And today, Don Farrell, who's the Chief Cultivating Officer of Fresh Revenues, will be joining us. And today we're going to talk about how to navigate business in the middle of constant change. We're going to talk a little bit about customer service and messaging, accounts receivable, sales. So we're going to cover a variety of different activities today. And for those that are joining us live, I want to invite you to go ahead and if you have questions, please ask those questions in the comments. So if you're joining us on Facebook or on YouTube, you can do that there in the comment stream, and we will look at those and make sure to answer those while we're here live. And I want to invite you just to follow along with us. Please, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. We're going to be doing this for a long time. So every Tuesday, we're talking about business topics. On Fridays at noon, we're talking about marketing, specifically things that you as a business owner, a leader, a nonprofit leader can do to market your business, especially in the middle of everything that's going on. And so one of the things, so again, I may have mentioned this already, but the two things that I really want to do with this are to encourage and equip. And so something that I want to share just before we have Don on here in just a couple of minutes, something that I want to share that I'm learning, because we're all in this, we're all trying to figure things out. So I posted something on LinkedIn that got a good response. And so you may have seen this, but 4 things that I'm learning in navigating through all of this. Number 1 is I'm not in this alone. And I've heard that from brands that don't know me, from Adam. But I've also heard that from peers and friends who I value and trust. And so it's important to know that we're not alone in this and to have people to reach out to. Number 2 is sort of following up on that. Man, how important it is to get encouragement from other people. And so I would encourage you, reach out to other people around you. Make sure to just send a quick note to a client or someone that you've worked with in the past, just to check in on them, see how they're doing. The third thing is that, what I'm realizing is that it's important to go back to the fundamentals. And that's one of the things that I know Don's going to talk about today. There are some things that are just tried and true, fundamental principles, those bedrock things that we've learned about a long time ago, and sometimes it's easy to get away from. So going back to those things is absolutely essential in a time like now. And the last thing is, now's a great time to try something new. And this live stream is a perfect example of that. When all of this started happening, I sat down with my team and just said, what can we do? How do we take what we know in a way to try to do something to give back, to help people? And so that's sort of what led to us launching this. And it's a lot of work. We're figuring things out. We're making mistakes. But maybe there's something new that you can try. There's a friend of mine who's in my Vistage group, and he's launched a podcast this week. So Robbie, if you're watching this, man, great job on that. So anyway, that's just some thoughts there on to encourage. Now we're going to jump into the equipping part of this here in just a minute. So I'm going to quit babbling because Don's really, Don's the one that we want to hear from today. So Don Farrell, just to give you a little bit of background, Don has led several companies, all focused primarily on serving hospitality industry, not exclusively, but that's been a big part of their focus. And they've worked with small hotels and restaurants and organizations like that, all the way up to Fortune 500 companies. And Don's one of those guys. He is as comfortable and at ease with, a CEO's making $8 million a year, down to, working with the frontline staff at a hotel or a restaurant who might be making $8 an hour. And so, he's his experience has gone from working in the kitchen, scrubbing pots, all the way up to, interacting with C-level executives. And so we're going to talk today about some things that you can do in terms of your messaging, things that you can do from a sales perspective, customer service, thinking through business fundamentals. And anyway, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to go ahead and invite Don in, and so we can go ahead and jump in. Hey, Don.
Hello, Steve.
How are you this afternoon?
I am doing grand, and I'm doing better now that I'm talking to you.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, Don, man, I'm glad to have you on. You just heard the intro. And one thing I didn't mention is Don and I met last year. He and I are both part of a business peer group called Vistage. John Salika, who was on here last Tuesday, is the one who leads that group or chairs that group. And so Don came to the group last summer, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And has been a great part of the group. And I've learned a lot from Don just in the short time that I've known him. And as we got this live stream up and running, I definitely wanted to get him on because he's got some great stories. As I hear him say, he's got stories for the heart and facts for the head. And he's got some great things to share. So Don, why don't you just give us a little bit of your background, and then we can dive in from there.
As you mentioned, I come from the hospitality world, which when you're 15 years old, the best opportunity is to be a pot scrubber or a dishwasher. So I started as a pot scrubber, and then I got promoted to dishwasher, Steve. That was a promotion. Worked my way through the ranks, wound up as VP of sales and marketing for different companies. And the cool thing about hospitality is everybody is looking for it. BMW is looking for it. Audi's looking for it. Guy that we're working with right now has 300 gas stations that he owns, is looking for the hospitality. How do you deliver that? So we've lived that since I was 15 years old. I'm a lot older than that now, let me tell you. And the coolest thing, Steve, about hospitality is you're really selling the most perishable of items, and that is time and space. Once they're gone forever. So as a result, Steve, whether we knew it or not, we were learning how to work under pressure, under duress. And if we didn't sell it today for tomorrow, it never happened. So as a result of having that kind of experience and depth and breadth, we're able to bring that to what you would consider non-traditional hospitality clients. And they're like, wow, man, where'd you come up with this stuff? Well, we've been doing it for a long time. So That's what's really cool about the hospitality world.
Well, and Don, to your point, my first job was working at Dunkin' Donuts in Baltimore I think my job title was porter, which just meant I was the guy that went in and hosed down all the equipment after they got done making the donuts.
Okay.
And then from there, I worked for Chick-fil-A both in high school and college, and I've spent about 8 years of my career with Chick-fil-A, both doing marketing and as an owner operator. And man, I completely agree with you just in terms of hospitality and how that can carry over to so many different organizations. A lot of times where people wouldn't think about it.
Right.
Well, Don, why don't you go ahead and jump in? As you and I were talking about previously, one of the challenges that I think we're all acutely aware of right now is this pandemic has really made us aware of the flaws in our business.
Right.
So what are you seeing? What are you sharing with folks as they sort of realize, and maybe even some of the things that you're learning just from your own business?
Right. Well, I love your encouragement, but also equip, and I'm going to stay with that theme. So here's the encouraging piece, and I'm going to have to read it because I just saw this yesterday. It was online, but I thought it was worth sharing with your audience. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Faith and fear have one thing in common besides the letter F. They both believe in a future that hasn't happened yet. For fear believes in the negative. Faith believes in a positive future. If neither has happened yet, why not choose positive? I thought that was pretty cool.
I like that. That's
afraid, and that's totally natural and that's totally understandable. But you could also say, look, I've got faith that this thing's going to turn out to be better for us. And my faith tells me that we're going to walk out of this thing better human beings, better leaders, better communicators. And it's stuff we should have been doing all along, but it's really brought it to the forefront. I saw a posting in Facebook the other day with I thought was ingenious. A friend of mine posted all the things that are happening in today's pandemic, and he had a super long list. And our whole thing is we are soup to nuts in training. We deliver the training results, and you've got assessment, you've got development, you've got all this stuff going on. And one of those reinforcement pieces, because Steve, most training fails for two reasons. Number one, it's not being reinforced with processes and accountabilities and coached and all that stuff. And the other is we don't get to the hearts of those frontline folks who in some cases are making $8, $10, $12 an hour, right?
Right.
So in the process of communicating what we do for a living, I've never spent enough time on the online learning piece. And we've got quite a magnificent library of content already that we can customize for anybody. Well, my bad, Steve. I should have been promoting that, because today I might be more successful as a result of it. So there's just a personal admittment to the fact that we've all got some weaknesses, and this pandemic has brought it to bear. You know, I've got a quote here I want to read you, and it says, "The elevator to success is out of order. You'll have to use the stairs one step at a time." And if we're honest with ourselves as operators and as communicators and as leaders, the last 10 years have been an elevator ride. I've gotten with potential clients and I said, look, I know for a fact that we can make you $2 million more on your $12 million you're making now. So pretty significant. And I'll even guarantee it and have those people say to me, Don, we're having banner years. We're having record years. We're going to be fine. Or right. Even worse, in some cases, Steve, people have said, why would I want to work any harder, Don Farrell? Because I'm already maximizing on my bonus. How sad is that? So
yeah,
they're thinking a different tune today.
Well, and so I think this whole idea of, it's really when we're under pressure that we start to see the cracks. Yeah. I've always heard it said that, more with greater sales, there's a lot of forgiveness. Well, right now, everybody's feeling constriction. Well, I would say the vast majority of people are feeling a reduction or constriction of business. So people are going to feel those flaws, those cracks in different parts of their business. And so I'd love to hear from you in terms of, what does this look like in terms of communication? Maybe you've got a great example with AR that I know you're planning to share, and then even sales. That's something a lot of people right now are questioning. How do I approach sales? So sort of that communication, customer service piece, the AR, and then sales.
Cool. Thank you, Steve. You used a word earlier, fundamentals. That's one of my favorite words. So I've been blessed to be able to make presentations, speeches, deliveries, training events going back to 1986, audiences from 10 to 10,000. And inevitably, especially at the larger events, someone will run into me and they see that I'm wearing the lavalier, so they know I'm the speaker. They don't know me otherwise. And they're like, before you get on, can you tell us what the newest and greatest and latest thing is? And my answer is the same. And it's absolutely the truth in my world, in my opinion. And that is, you're not going to like my answer. It's not very sexy. Well, what is it? Do the fundamentals. Because I promise you, most people, Steve, drift away from those fundamentals. And they're always looking for the newest, greatest, easiest thing to do. There's an old book that's been out there a long time. Have you heard of Whack on the Side of the Head, Steve? No,
that's a new one for me.
So it's an old book, but it still has, I visit it from time to time so I don't forget. But Roger Van Eck, EOECH, is the author. Okay. And he has like 10 different stories and lessons to be learned in the book. And one of them is, as children, as kindergartners, we are so creative. The example he uses is a teacher takes a blob on a blackboard or a whiteboard and asks the kids, what is this? And the kids are like, that's what a bird sees when it sees a lake. And they have all these multitude of answers, right? Now they ask the kids to go on the side of the room, and they bring in the parents, and they're sitting down at their child's seat, and they ask the parents, what is this blob on the board? And typically as adults, we're looking around going, I don't want to say something stupid. I look like an idiot. So finally somebody chirps up and says, it's a blob on the board. And the adults are like, oh, great answer, great answer.
Yeah.
His point is, we've beaten the creativity out of ourselves. We're looking for the easiest, fastest solution. And that's not the best solution, Steve. Okay. So fundamentals. We tend to focus on the newest, greatest, latest. Let's not do that. Stay with the fundamentals. Now, I'm going to redefine the fundamentals in just a bit, because what somebody else's fundamentals are and what we recommend are entirely different, which is why they pay us to be very tactical with them. And it all starts with a core. And you've heard me say this, Steve, but for your audience, I don't know if they have. And that is, when I ask people, is satisfying your clientele, is satisfying your associates that work for you, is that the mission? Is that the goal every single day, week, month, year? And they say, it sure is. And I beg to differ, because if you really look at the definition of satisfaction, it's giving people what they expect. And if you as a leader have been doing that to date, my suggestion is your fundamentals need to change, and that is to deliver more than people expect. And then, and only then, do you develop a true loyalty, which is the key word. You don't want satisfaction, you want loyalty. And a lot of good things happen when your consumers are loyal to you. And how can you possibly have a business or run an organization of any kind, including not-for-profit, if your associates are not loyal to you? So you've got leaders, you've got two things to do. And that is to deliver more than your consumer expects and to deliver more than your people expect. And that's why they pay you the big dust.
So, Don, one of the things I want to make a comment, and I want to, before I make my comment about that specifically, for our viewers, our listeners, here in just a little bit, I'm going to share Don's contact information, and we're going to, as we're going through this, just for the sake of time, we're not going to have as much time to dive into the detail of some of these topics as I know we would love to do. We want to be considerate of everybody's time. And so we're going to share Don's contact information. So if there's something that he says that pops up that really creates some curiosity or something that you want to talk about more, then we're going to give you his contact information. You can get in touch and you can explore any of these topics in more detail. So going back to the customer service and satisfaction's not enough. When I was at Chick-fil-A, there was an initiative called Second Mile Service. And we talked about first mile. The idea of going the first mile is what people expect. That doesn't create loyalty. That's what people, when they come into your restaurant, whatever the basic expectations are, when they come into your business, you're not winning awards because you can check off the basic expectations. Now, depending on your competitors, maybe that's enough to create a distinction, but it doesn't create loyalty. And we always talked about creating these experiences, these second mile experiences and little things that really, and that's where the whole my pleasure response came from, was to create those little things. So it doesn't have to be dramatic, expensive changes. It can be small little nuances that really have a significant impact in terms of how people think, feel, and what they believe about your business and ultimately your brand.
Yes. And in the process of building that loyalty, if you're asking yourself, okay, what can I possibly do that is more than people expect? I find, again, C-suite people feel like that's their total responsibility, and it's not. Their responsibility is to get everybody in the organization to be contributing towards that. Yeah. Even the pot scrubber in the kitchen has ideas about what people like and don't like about the food because he throws it away, right? Yep. But you won't ask that person these kinds of questions, and we need to. Not only will it give you a plethora of ideas to do tactically to do more than you're doing for your consumers today, but it's also going to build the right culture that says my people are that important. They're the ones delivering it. They're the ones that have the right answers. It's my job to make sure it happens. So
two key takeaways that I'm hearing as it relates to creating great customer client experiences, which right now is going to be more important than ever, because as things become more competitive in certain spaces, if all things are equal and they're getting a better experience somewhere else, they're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So number one is think about, what does it mean to create loyalty? And ultimately, I think that comes back to define the basic expectations of what your customers expect coming in the door.
Correct.
Maybe not literally coming in the door, but what they expect, and then define what you can do to build on top of that. And then the second thing that I hear you saying is, if you have a team, talk to your team, ask everybody for ideas, because it's not just as you said, it's not just the people sitting in the C-suite. A lot of times it's going to be the frontline folks that are interacting with customers that really are going to have some pretty significant ideas.
Yeah, I'd like to tell you I'm a genius, Steve, and I can come up with all these new ideas, but the truth is I listen to their frontline folks. That's where I get most of my input from.
Absolutely. When I had my Chick-fil-A, I had great ideas that came from the 15-year-old who was working on the front line with our customers.
Yep.
So to transition this, so we talked about customer experience, creating loyalty. Let's shift for just a moment. I know one of the things that a lot of people are thinking about right now. Okay, if I might have a client who owes me some money, but I don't, how do I have that conversation without seeming like a jerk, but I still have bills? And you've got a great example of this. So why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of how you're approaching that in a way that's tactful yet still honest?
So the reality, as we know, the audience knows, is many of our clients have shut down. So they don't have revenue coming in. And here you are trying to get paid. It's a tough situation. So what we've done and what we recommend others do, in fact, Emily Adams in my company has done this and done this very well, is to have an honest discussion with our clients that owe us money from the past. And to first and foremost, have empathy for their situation and truly care about them and communicate that care. But before we leave the end of this phone call with them or the video call, we're trying to come up with some sort of a schedule as when they think they can pay us back. Now, our assumption that's turning out to be true is out of 100% of the people we're calling, 50% are sending us money sooner than they probably would have, because we've had that discussion.
Sure.
And that's a home run. So our recommendation is have that honest discussion with your client, but certainly have empathy before you dig into, hey, you owe me X amount of dollars, and be understanding with their payback schedule.